What is going on, everybody? We are live. Thank you for being here. Hope you guys had a good Sunday and enjoyed your day. Made the most out of your opportunities. We have got to talk about three main topics, and I switched up the last topic because honestly, I found this policing topic to be more interesting to me than critical race theory at this point. So I switched up the last topic, but guys, we have got to talk about just the absolute lies. There's this so-called the big lie, and you know what that is, the lie that the Democrats say Donald Trump is pushing, and the whole reason why all of this Republican-led GOP-backed voting laws are being pushed is because of the big lie. But we have to acknowledge that the even bigger lie, I'll put it like that, is that this is somehow equated to Jim Crow. We're going to touch on that. Then we're going to dive into a little bit of the implications of the Democrats leaving the state of Texas, and then we'll round out with a police use of force and this whole idea that police are not police, but that some cities should send unarmed social workers. So we got to talk about that. Thank you guys for being here with me on this beautiful Tuesday evening. If you're in here, make sure you guys like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you're notified anytime I make a video. And I'm trying to make the Tuesdays a routine for my lives. So make sure you guys are paying attention to Tuesday evenings, 8:30 Eastern. That's when I'm trying to commit to live streams. As you guys know, I just had my fourth son. He's doing very well. Not my fourth son. Excuse me. My goodness. My wife's going to see that and be like, you don't have four sons. My fourth child, my third son. So life is hectic for kids under 5 years old. Anyways, guys, if you want to support the channel, you could find me on Patreon, PayPal, and Cash App. Links will be in the description below. Make sure you guys hit that like button one last time. And I'm just going to check my audio real quick to make sure that everything is popping. Sounds good. As you guys are coming into the live stream, make sure you guys drop a comment. Let me know who's in here. I really enjoy going back and forth with you guys in the comment section. So make sure you guys drop a comment and we can go ahead and get started in about a minute or two. I want to pull up the article I'm going to be reading from, a little bit of it that we're going to be reading from, and then we're going to look at the video. Okay, Joe Biden, he's lost his mind, but we have to at least pay attention to what the man says, because believe it or not, he is the president. He is the president. So his words do matter. We know that they're mostly scripted because he has a handler that writes everything for him. He can't do the old Donald Trump and go way off course and then somehow come back and connect it and be like, okay, that does make sense. Or it didn't make sense, but it was really entertaining. Joe Biden can't do that because he gets lost very quick. So we got to look at this article from The Hill. Biden slams state voting restrictions as 21st century Jim Crow. Now, to me, it's ridiculous that there are a group of politicians that will literally use the word Jim Crow. They will talk about what the Republicans and the GOP is doing regarding voting and equate it to Jim Crow. The last time I checked, I didn't see any provisions in any voting laws that required the black or brown man to go around back and vote. I didn't see that, but nonetheless, we still have a 21st century Jim Crow. Before we get into that, guys, like I said earlier, make sure you guys like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you're notified anytime I make a video, and go ahead and check out some of my shorter videos. Go ahead and check out everything else that I pretty much make. My channel revolves a lot around talking about the culture war, talking about religion. Obviously, I am very invested in the idea that individual rights and freedoms are supreme. And that is why I find myself being a conservative, why I find myself with the Republican Party. So if you're new to the channel, welcome. Thank you for being here. But if you want to get a little bit more of a sense of who I am as a person, go ahead and check out some of my other material. I back the blue, obviously. So I think you guys would have a good time looking at some of my older content as well. But guys, let's go ahead and get started with this. Biden slams the state voting restriction as 21st century Jim Crow. I'm gonna go ahead and play this. We're gonna listen to about the first 2.5 minutes, and then I'm gonna fast forward it to around 4 minutes because at one point he just goes on and on about the Democrat voting bill. All right, For the People Act. He just gives all the reasons why the For the People Act is better than what the Republicans are pushing. And ultimately, it's up to each state to come up with their laws. It's up for each state to come up with their laws within the Constitution. It says the state legislator has the sole power to create the laws necessary to carry out an election. So last time I checked, Joe Biden and the federal government is not a local state legislator. So for that reason alone, I don't really care what he has to say about voting laws. I don't care what Joe Biden has to say about voting laws. I care about what each state has to say about voting laws. And ultimately, because we are in a federalist society, you know what? To each his own. So as you guys are coming in to the live stream, make sure you drop a comment so I see who's in here. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Let's get these likes up. And again, guys, do this, like, comment, share, subscribe. All right, let's listen to Joe Biden address the nation. All right, and his stance that it's hard to even say this 21st century Jim Crow assault. Let's take a listen.
Time and again, we've weathered threats to the right to vote, free and fair elections. And each time we found a way to overcome. That's what we must do today. Vice President Harris and I have spent our careers doing this work. And I've asked her to lead, to bring people together to protect the right to vote and our democracy. And it starts with continuing the fight to pass H.R. 1, the For the People Act. That bill would help end voter suppression in the states, get dark money out of politics, give voice to the people at the grassroots level, create a fair district maps, and end partisan political gerrymandering.
I really find it comical that Joe Biden would talk about dark money. I mean, get the dark money. This is what he said. Get the dark money out of politics. I mean, he must have forgot that his son used the Biden's last name to get millions of dollars of cash in other countries while Joe was vice president of the United States. I mean, come on, you guys. This is what I believe. Over 40 years in politics, Joe Biden has received some quote unquote dark money. But you got to think about the so-called voting suppression. If what the Republicans are doing is suppressing the vote, then you have to be able to extract real evidence to support that claim. NPR sums up what the bill is going to do in Texas like this. NPR reports the latest bills in Texas include new identification requirements for people voting by mail and prohibit local election officials from sending a vote by mail application to someone who hasn't requested one. Okay, so right there, you need an ID to vote, and the state should not be sending out a ballot if you haven't requested one, because believe it or not, people move from the state, and then a ballot ends up at that person's old home, and they have a ballot in the hands of someone who's not that person. Okay, So that's Jim Crow. That's what we're supposed to believe is Jim Crow. The bill also bans drive-through voting and extended hours during early voting. The bill expands what partisan poll watchers can observe during elections and prohibit poll watchers from being removed for violating election laws. If passed, these bills would also create new criminal penalties for any election worker who intentionally or knowingly refuses to accept a poll watcher. So all of this, guys, is just, what he calls 21st century Jim Crow. But I have yet to see a real law that is suppressing the vote. I haven't seen it. Whispering Wind, hello, hello. Welcome to the live stream. I'm glad you're here tonight. Welcome, welcome.
Last month, Republicans opposed even debating, even considering for the People's Act. Senate Democrats stood united to protect our democracy and the sanctity of the vote. We must pass the For the People Act. It's a national imperative. We must also fight for the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act to restore and expand voting protections, prevent voter suppression. All the congresswomen and men here, there's a bunch of you. You knew John, many of you. Just weeks ago, the Supreme Court yet again weakened the Voting Rights Act and upheld what Justice Kagan called, quote, a significant race-based disparity in voting opportunities.
Yeah, so that part's interesting because, okay, Justice Kagan says a significant race-based opportunity, blah, blah, blah. You guys understand the whole talking point about disparate impact. But Justice Samuel Alito, writing for the majority, addressed how the court can examine claims of voting discrimination. And he says, and I quote, the mere fact there is some disparity in impact does not necessarily mean that a system is not equally open or that it does not give everyone an equal opportunity to vote. Justice Samuel Alito says that. So Joe Biden goes on to say what Justice Kagan is talking about, but the Supreme Court ruled, and they ruled correctly, that just because there is some disparity, that does not necessarily mean that the system is not equally open. The fact of the matter is this: if you are black or brown or white and you want to vote, you can go vote. You just have to go and do the appropriate steps. If you want to do it, you will do it. I mean, think about the people who are living on Section 8. They have to have IDs. People that deliver babies. Okay, you go to the hospital. They want to see, who are you? What's your name? What's your social security number? What insurance do you have? What are the documents that you're going to bring to the hospital to prove, okay, you are who you are, and the hospital needs to know who the heck are you? So all of these documents, that are being talked about as being, oh, you're somehow upholding 21st century Jim Crow laws by simply wanting a ID and ending 24-hour voting sites. I mean, it's ridiculous. And Justice Alito, thankfully, he's in the Supreme Court, and he says it for what it is, because this is a main talking point for disparate impact. Democrats always want to talk about, and leftists always want to talk about, and social justice warriors always want to talk about disparate impact. Oh, look at what the white person has versus what the black person has. Look at what this group has versus that group. And they say, oh, because the outcomes are different, there must be some sort of discrimination. But Justice Alito gets up there and he says, well, not necessarily, because you would have to prove that the outcomes are due to discrimination and not due to other variables. It's not my fault that if certain laws get passed, you all of a sudden don't want to vote anymore, because you don't want to go get an ID. So you say, I'm not going to vote. Well, that's your fault. And why don't you have an ID? So Samuel Alito hits the nail on the head here. when he says it, and I wish more people would say it just how he said it. And I'm going to read it again. The mere fact that there is some disparity in impact does not necessarily mean that a system is not equally open, or that it does not give everyone an equal opportunity to vote. you know and that's the leading opinion of our Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito. So back to what this guy has to say.
Court's decision, as harmful as is, does not limit the Congress's ability to repair the damage done. That's the important point. Puts the burden back.
Oh, looks like we had a little glitch. Let me go ahead and roll back in here. Let me go back and roll back in here. I believe we were at like 2 something.
Strength. As soon as Congress passes the For the People Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, I will sign it and let the whole world see it. That will be an important moment. And the world is wondering.
The world is wondering. The
world is wondering.
The world is wondering. This is hilarious. Oh, this is good. This is really good. Whispering Wind has a really good point here. People have always voted. It's only a problem now. No vote is being suppressed. They just want to be able to sneak more votes in. All right. Then that's what they want to do. They want to sneak more votes in. Buzzkill, what's up, my dude? My internet be scratchy. Oh man, yeah, I know the frustration with that. Sometimes my internet goes out. I don't know what happened, but it just jumped and I lost my original spot with this video. But anyways, we're moving on because we're moving on with this little segment. But for the next couple minutes, Joe Biden is just going to give a rah-rah speech about the For the People Act and how this piece of federal legislation is better than what the states can put forth, and blah 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 blah. And it's garbage because at the end of the day, the states are the ones who have the sole power to create legislative law, to create and deny how people are allowed to vote. They're not denying people the vote. They're denying certain ways to vote. No, you can't come to a 24-hour ballot box and just drop off a vote. No, we don't want that. We want you to come in and vote. Anyways, I'm going to fast forward because he's just going to go on and on about why the For the People Act is better. But I want you guys to hear this part, because I find it funny because he transitions his gaze to Texas in specific. Take a listen.
In the courts, in Texas, for example, Republican-led state legislature wants to allow partisan poll watchers to intimidate voters and impartial poll workers. They want voters to dive further and be able to be in a position where they wonder who's watching them and intimidating them, to wait longer to vote, to drive.
I mean, that right there is just an outright lie. I mean, you guys could read the bill for yourself. You could look at every single article that we've been reading from The Hill, Reuters, NPR, everything, all of these articles that you can go read from that they're not conservative outlets. Okay. The Hill is not a conservative outlet, but they will even say that this bill, and they don't outright say it, but every piece of evidence they have to try to support the claim of 21st century Jim Crow, it doesn't amount to anything. And the bill has nothing in it that suggests Republicans want to intimidate voters. It simply doesn't. There's a lot of talk, like I said earlier, about the big lie in association with Donald Trump's claim about the 2020 election. All right. The real big lie is to smear your political opponents as racist and equate simple voting laws to Jim Crow. It's crazy to me that Democrats can't flat out say communism is evil and the Cuban government is corrupt. Jen Psaki will not say that from her high and mighty seat. Yet they will repeat this type of Jim Crow rhetoric and aim it at their fellow American. All right. It's simply not that. It's simply not that. So again, Justice Alito wrote the realist piece of truth that I've come across. The mere fact that there is some disparity in impact does not necessarily mean that a system is not equally or open, um, or that it does not give everyone equal opportunity to vote.
I have a hell of a lot long, excuse me, a long way to get to vote. They want to make it so hard and inconvenient that they hope people don't vote at all. That's what this is about. This year alone, 17 states have enacted, not just proposed, but enacted 28 new laws to make it harder for Americans to vote. Not to mention, and catch this, nearly 400 additional bills Republican members of the state legislatures are trying to pass. The 21st century Jim Crow assault is real.
Yeah, and it's elementary logic. What he's saying is elementary logic. Oh, they passed how many? This year alone, 17 states have enacted, not just proposed, but enacted 28 new laws. Okay, so because there's 28 new laws, you somehow think that this is going to make voting harder. No, it's not making it harder. It's making it more secure. Not to mention the nearly 400 additional bills Republican members of the state legislature are trying to pass. I mean, what? So, are you in the business of ensuring fair and free elections or not? I mean, what are you in the business of? Because to have a fair and free election, to have election integrity, there has to be, it's okay to increase security, increase transparency, increase accountability. And that's what I see Republicans doing. They're increasing all three of these. And the Democrats are just hating that. You know what? The fact of the matter is this is elections have consequences. We've heard that before. Elections have consequences. And the Texas people spoke when they elected their state legislators to be Republicans and conservatives. They chose that. So they want their lawmakers to act a certain way. Who the heck is Joe Biden to come in there and say, well, we don't want your lawmakers to make those laws that you people have put them there to make because you voted for them? I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous, guys. It's ridiculous, and it's the real big lie. The real big lie is this conspiracy theory of voter oppression. All right. Jumping into some of these comments, Vicky says, when will Jim Crow Joe, Harris, and Wicked with Nancy get the 25th? I am still waiting. I don't see it happening there. I see them finishing out their term. And that's just what the reality is for us in this moment. Whispering Wind, if they didn't play the racist card, they have nothing. And I mean, that's a well-established truth, very simple, straight to the point, but they peddle this idea of white supremacy and racism. But at the end of the day, think about George Floyd. George Floyd will go down in the history of a conspiracy theory being spun, because the courts let it play out. The courts showed all the evidence. The attorneys showed all of the evidence. We had, I don't know how many weeks, over a week of of the case, and not 1 ounce of evidence came out to suggest that this was a racially motivated crime. But you know why we thought it was racist? You know why people thought that Derek Chauvin killing George Floyd was a racist act? Was because all they do is play the race card. Not one piece of evidence was shown to condemn Derek Chauvin of racism, yet they want to attach racism to everything. So Whispering Wind, you're right. If they didn't have the racist card, they'd have nothing. That's such a lie. If they are making it hard to vote, it hurts the Republican vote as well. That's just nonsense. I mean, I agree. I'm not wealthy. I'm not rich. I'm just your average Joe. I'm in the lower income bracket, and whatever the law is here in Florida, I I fulfilled it. I mean, I got my, I don't have it on me, but I have my voting registration. I think that's what you call it. But it's the fact of the matter is this: if you want to go vote, go vote. If you want it bad enough, you will go and you will apply for the documents that you need to have and you will go vote. Okay? Yeah, it is just nonsense. True story. The baby party hates voter ID. Voter ID easier to vote, but harder to cheat. Yes, and this whole thing about harder to vote. You know, okay, is it really harder to vote though? You have to get an ID for everything in your life. It's not a matter of it being harder. It's what you said in your second part. It's about it being more secure. I don't care if something is a little bit harder. Okay, if you want to do it bad enough, you will go do it. That's my whole mentality around that. But I understand what you're saying, Vicky. Much love to you. I am white and I have ID, but I am on rental assistance. I mean, yeah, yeah, and you need ID. We all need ID. So this idea that it's laughable that having an ID or requiring an ID is somehow Jim Crow like. I mean, guys, it's uh it, it- it's it's mind blowing. And like I said earlier, I said in my last one of my last videos, I said it's a brain scratcher. It's not even a head scratcher. It's a brain scratcher at this point. But I wanted to show you guys uh this article from the New York Times because they actually asked two good questions, and I think they do a good job in answering. Why did Democrats, flee the state? We already know the answer for that because they want to undermine American democracy. That's what they want to do. And what does it mean? All right, that's the more interesting question that I think the New York Times addresses. This part right here is really obvious. They are fleeing the state because they are throwing a tantrum and they don't want laws on the books to help secure future elections. That's it. So, as you guys know, the Democratic legislator who fled to Washington to thwart the passage of a restrictive voting measure cannot be legally forced to return from out of state. Think about that. That would be a story. Here are the great people of the United States of America. Imagine that. So imagine these people stay in Washington or whatever state for 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, over a year. They're Texas legislators, but they're not in Texas. Imagine if that actually played out, all for the sake of stopping a GOP backed voting bill. I mean, we're in that climate. That could happen. But if it did, I would be like, wow, that is insane. That is insane to me that these people would leave their lives. They would leave their families. They would leave their job. They weren't elected to be in Washington. They were elected to be in Texas. Anyways, reading from the New York Times, when Texas Democrats walked out of the state house in late May, denying Republicans a quorum and thwarting a passage of restrictive voting measures, it was a dramatic political move not seen in nearly 2 decades. They did it again this week, this time fleeing the state for Washington shortly after a 30-day special session to secure passage of the bill commenced. The bill includes restrictions on absentee voting and bans 24-hour and drive-through voting, which drew millions of voters in Democratic strongholds across the state in October. And a lot of these provisions were due to COVID-19. All right. It was all about social distancing. Don't touch each other. Stay there. Keep on a mask. Go when nobody's there. But now that we're fully over, we're past the curve, as some would say. We don't need a wide open set of laws. Like, hey, you feel like voting today? Come at 3 a.m. and drop off your ballot. We don't need that. We live in America. We don't live in South Africa. Hey, there's a ballot box over there. Just go ahead and throw it in whenever you feel like it. What? No, that's not what we need. But again, I'm advocating for Jim Crow laws. Governor Greg Abbott has vowed that the Democrats who absconded will face reprimands, telling Fox News once they step back into the state, they will be arrested and brought back to the Capitol and will be conducting business. On Tuesday, the Texas House voted to issue arrest warrants to compel the lawmakers to return to Austin. So, can Republicans compel Democrats to return? In short, no. All right, but I found this part interesting. Still, the Democrats have to eventually return home, said Brandon Rottenhouse, a political science professor at the University of Houston. They have jobs, they have lives, they have families. It's like a vacation for them. Think about they have the best job in the world. Think about it. Like think about being a think about being a Democratic politician. You make over $100,000 a year. You complain about America. You talk about racism nonstop. You try to legislate against white people. You try to adopt critical race theory into policy. And then when the Republicans, who your state's population voted in, create a law that you don't like, you take a hiatus, you take a business trip, you take a vacation to Washington. I mean, think about what they're doing in Washington right now. They're probably out having a good time, drinking a few drinks, talking about, man, this is this is an epic move. This hasn't been done since I think 2003. We really showed the camera that us who are environmentalists would take 2 private jets to fly to Washington and leave our duty station here in Texas, because you know what? We're fighting for America. We are fighting against the assault. I mean, I could hop in maskless. Yes. Yes, awesome, Alice. They were maskless. Now maybe they were all vaccinated, who knows? But it's insane to me that these people are trying to they're trying to make a case, and it's a slap in the face to Texans. It's a slap in the face to Texans first and foremost. But what a job it is to be a Democratic politician. I mean, a politician in general. I think most of the time they really don't do much anyways, Republican and Democrat, but they get paid a lot and they get paid to talk. I like doing both of those. I like talking. So maybe one day I could be a politician and probably do better than most of the people that I see. But this story is crazy to me that they'll just hop on a plane, leave their state, and have a short little vacation, leave their families behind. What is the Democrats' plan? According to the New York Times, when the Democrats do finally return, they are unlikely to win the fight over voting legislation. Not only does Mr. Abbott have the power to call for as many special sessions as he wants, but the Republicans, who hold firm majorities in both chambers, are sure to move forward with their agenda. That agenda includes more than the voting restrictions, which would be among the strictest in the nation. The state's Republicans also want to combat perceived censorship on social media platforms and restrict transgender athletes from competing in school sports on teams that match their gender identity. Okay, and this part is ridiculous. Perceived censorship? No, it's outright censorship. When you have Donald Trump absolutely barred from social media until what, 2023, 2024? That's outright censorship. And anybody who thinks like him has now been flagged on Facebook, and they've told your think about this. They've told your family to report you if you've been radicalized. So it's not perceived censorship, it's real censorship. The liberal media establishments want to censor conservative viewpoints if they start talking about the forbidden things. And we all know what they are. So it's not perceived censorship. And this whole thing about trans athletes, the fact of the matter is this: boys should compete against boys, girls should compete against girls. My common ground is, okay, create a transgender league where a bunch of trans girls compete against other trans girls, meaning they're all biological boys, but they think they're girls. And then trans boys go compete against other trans boys, meaning they're biological women, they're biological girls, but they think they're boys, so they go compete with themselves. That is like my only I'll budge there. Everything else, the mixing of the sports, no, it's terrible. And it's terrible. Vicky Carden, I can't say that out loud, but thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you guys. Did Uber change his name? Even in the military, we got some woke people joining and spreading their ideas. I believe the younger generation of America are inferior to us who are 27 and above. 26 and below are inferior. And it's honestly, the fact of the matter is, it's not about being inferior, in my opinion. It's about being, they have been brainwashed, bro. This, brainwashed. They have been absolutely indoctrinated. 12, 13 years of schooling. Every single thing in the culture talks about things that are twisted. We don't understand history, and then we come out as young adults like, I don't know which way to go. I don't know what to believe. I guess I have to be inclusive. I guess I have to accept all of these evil things disguised as good, but looking at some of the comments here, Awesome Alice says, yeah, I am a repeat offender. If you got Facebook, Gulag, or you're a political prisoner. Yeah, you are a political prisoner. You're not allowed to say certain things on Facebook, just like YouTube. Yep, this younger generation is so spoiled. It's sad. Yeah, I mean, and think about it. My generation, I'm only 29. My generation, we have been privileged with so many things, so many opportunities. When I tell you, one of my best friends growing up grew up poor as can be. I mean, think about poor, 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 poor. Okay. He's now 29, 30, like me, and he has moved from being, young 20s poor to starting his own business to then building that business to then maintaining a very good marriage to the point where both of them are making you know 60, 70,000 plus a year. So their household income is around 120 to 150 a year. And literally the guy came from nothing. So, yes, we are spoiled because we have so many opportunities before us, but we want to complain and complain and complain about how America sucks. And it's the ones who are bawling. These people are bawling. I mean, think about Cory Bush, think about AOC. These people are living in luxury, and yet they're complaining about all of the systemic oppressions of America. But anyways, moving on with the article. For the Democrats, political observers say fleeing the state on Monday was more about taking a political stand than bringing Republicans around to their way of thinking. So basically, it's political theater. Jumping down a little bit further, is running away here to stay? I would say yes. All right. I don't care what the New York Times says about that. I would say yes. What does the current bill include? We already talked about that. According to Joe Biden, it involves Jim Crow. According to NPR and other news outlets, it's literally not that bad. All right. Is fleeing the state a new tactic? This week was not the first time Texas legislators in the minority party fled in an attempt to block a passage of a controversial legislation. In May 2003, more than 50 House Democrats escaped to Ardmore, Oklahoma, 30 miles north of the Texas border, to block Republicans from redrawing congressional districts. The measure failed without a quorum. 2 months later, after the governor at the time, Rick Perry, called a special session, 11 Democrat state senators fled to New Mexico, a 640-mile trip from Austin, to again deny their Republican colleagues a quorum and stave off redistricting efforts that they believed would hurt their party. And this is the this is New York Times saying it. The Democrats at that time decided to leave Austin, Texas, to go to New Mexico because they believed it would hurt their party. makes no mention about whether it's good or bad for America. It's about, well, the Democrats believe it will hurt their party, so they did this. And this is the history of the Democratic Party. And yet they want to say that Republicans and conservatives are, undermining their threat to democracy. These are the people that are the threat to democracy because they will do anything possible to do what's best for their party. It's not about America. It's about key thing, their party. Even more history with the Democrats. Most notably, in 1979, a dozen Democratic senators, known as the Killer Bees, hid for 5 days from the Republicans and Texas Rangers to prevent the Senate from reaching a quorum. They had been objecting to a bill that aimed to create two primaries, one for the presidential race and one for a general primary, which they described at the time as a measure that was likely to favor the candidacy of John B. Connally, the former Texas governor who was up for a Republican presidential nomination in 1980. The bill later died in the Senate. So we have a history of Democrats, these people right here, fleeing their states to do what's best for their people, do what's best for their party. It's not about the United States of America. It's about the Democratic Party. All right, so looking at some of these comments. So guys, as you guys are listening to, some of these stories, make sure you guys are dropping comments. Let me know what you guys think. Again, I said this in the beginning. Thank you guys for being here. If you already haven't, make sure you like, comment, share some of my other content, subscribe if you already haven't. Mention my channel to some of your friends. Share my information. Share my channel on Facebook. All right, Alice, I'm thinking about you. Everybody else who has Facebook, guys, throw my videos on Facebook and help this channel get some more traction. I want to take a quick pause to just remind you, if you want to support the channel, if you feel like, hey, you know what, I want to support this guy, I want to support this channel, and I believe in what. If you believe in what I'm doing, you believe in what I'm saying, you believe in what I'm standing for, you could help me on Patreon. You could help the channel also through PayPal and Cash App. And of course, guys, if you're not in the position to donate, you could always hit that like button. All right. And turn on the notifications. So jumping into some of these comments, Vicky said, so would this be an insurrection? No, I don't think it would be an insurrection. I really just think it's a political show, and the Democrats have a history of doing political shows and then saying that, oh, it's the Republicans that are undermining the democracy. It's the Republicans that are the threat to democracy. I mean, how many times have we heard that? Threat to democracy, threat to democracy, threat to democracy. I mean, so many times. That's one of the reasons why I voted for Trump, was because so many times I heard people say, oh, he's a threat to democracy. And I was like, I mean, I don't really know much, but I don't really think he's a threat to democracy. And you haven't really given any good reasons to back up your claim. And that kind of opened the door for me to look at Trump for myself, because I was tired of hearing people tell me that he was a threat to democracy. When I actually looked at it myself, I said, the Republicans aren't a threat to democracy. Donald Trump isn't a threat to democracy. But yet, when you grow up in a liberal city like mine, Tampa, Florida, when you grow up in public school system, when you grow up around a lot of people who are liberal, even if you're apolitical like I was, you move into the real world with these things in your mind, like, I wonder, is the Republican Party really the ones who are destroying the democracy? Can I really trust what these people are saying? But then when you realize the fact that they have been duped by the liberal establishment media. I mean, it's like, guys, I'm sorry, I can't be a liberal. I can't be a Democrat, even though my first vote before I voted for Donald Trump in 2020, my prior my prior voting record at that point was Democrat. So I voted, and I think I've shared this with you guys before. But the first time I voted was in 2018, when Ron DeSantis was running against Andrew Gillum. And I was working in a neighborhood that was primarily Black, and a lot of my colleagues were Black. And the only thing that I ever heard was vote for Gillum, vote for Gillum. Gillum's going to help us. Gillum's going to do right. Gillum this, Gillum that. Ron DeSantis is a racist. Ron DeSantis is a Trump guy. Ron DeSantis, he's not going to help us. He's going to, and that's all I heard. So when it came down to to fill in the dot, I literally had this thought in my head before I voted for Andrew Gillum. I thought to myself, is it possible a white guy can serve and make good policy for the Black community? Or will a Black person do a better job? And I thought about that, and I said, a Black person will do a better job. So I bubbled in Andrew Gillum, and now I'm sitting here in 2021 and experience everything I experienced through 2020. And I'm like, what in the world were you thinking voting for Andrew Gillum? Thank God he didn't win, because we would have still been locked up. We would have still been locked up. But yeah, that's that. A little bit of my background right there. A little bit of my background. Yo, Uber, did you change your name? Because I want to say Uber, but now it's Biden. So Biden watched you take a shower, my guy says. I'm E7 in the middle, but when I tell an E2 to do something, I expect it to be done without hesitation. Straight out of boot camp, kid thinks he or she don't have to obey my order. Oh, and CRT is entering the U.S. military. We have been training online now for that. Instead of training training for combat, we're training for feelings and making everyone feel good. Just completed a CRT training. Yeah, and it's there. And I wanted to talk about CRT. I don't know if you guys saw this, but I changed up the last topic of the night to revolve more around policing than critical race theory. But I want to put this link in the comments so that you guys can watch this for yourself, because I think it's a really good piece. It's a really good piece to educate yourself on the woes, the absolute pitfall of critical race theory. And it's by Christopher Rufo. Let me see if I could find it. I'm looking through my history to see if I could find yes, right here. I'm gonna go ahead and this is what I wanted to talk about. But I felt like I needed a little bit of break from critical race theory, because I've been going in on critical race theory, and I was like, what, let me talk about policing instead of critical race theory. But without diving too much into it, since Biden watched you take a shower, brought it up, you guys have to check this out. All right, it's by Christopher Rufo on YouTube. Critical Race Theory, Christopher Rufo's YouTube channel. And it talks about an intro to what critical race theory is and what they're trying to do. It talks about the origins of critical race theory and how it's steeped in Marxism. And then critical race theory enters into the academia world. All right, so it just goes on and on. Critical race theory as public policy, and we've talked about that a lot on this channel. We've talked about how critical race theory as a public policy is basically just discriminating against white people more. Why critical race theory is ascendant, winning the fight against critical race theory, and then lastly, he talks about the future of our country. It's a nearly 18-minute listen, but I would say you guys should definitely, add this to your to watch list if you're interested in learning more about critical race theory, because uh, what my homie Biden watched you take a shower said is true. They're trying to just indoctrinate people. They're trying to indoctrinate people to believe this crap, and it's just flat out wrong. Whispering Wind, okay, surgery at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Nothing too serious. Good night, all. God bless. God bless you, Whispering Wind. Let us know how your surgery goes. I actually make a note. I'll make a note right now to make sure I ask you during our next live. Um, yeah, so God bless you. I hope your surgery goes well. Hope there's no complications. Um, and thank you so much for being here tonight. And like Vicky says, hope all goes well. But yeah, guys, I would say look at this. Christopher Rufo, is his name. If you haven't heard of him, you need to hear of him. You need to go look at his Twitter feed, and you need to really study his stuff. Look at what he's exposing, because the left is going to gaslight you and say, "Oh, CRT isn't that bad. It's really not here. It's really, it's only taught in academia and a little bit in in the military, but no, it is entrenched. Remnants of it are all over the place. And once you see it, you can't unsee it, as my wife says. So the last thing I want to talk about is this whole idea of, and it's an old idea, but it's an idea that we should send unarmed social workers, not police officers, to some 911 calls. So the reason why I ran into this was because earlier this week I was looking at, or late last week, I was, scrolling through Twitter a little bit, and I saw somebody tweet something to this effect, that unarmed social workers should respond to some 911 calls, not armed police. All right. So the tweet I saw was recent. I tried finding it, couldn't find it. So then I typed in, as I was trying to find that specific tweet, this came up. And even though this was from June 16th, 2020, this is still something that people think is a good idea. Some people think that it is a good idea to send unarmed social workers, not police officers, to 911 calls. What do you guys think about that? I'm interested to see what you guys think about that, because I know I have a certain feeling about sending social workers to 911 calls, but I'm interested to see what you guys think about that. So if you want to respond, make sure you guys drop a comment down below. But what, the whole idea, and not even the whole idea, the idea speaks for itself. Send social workers, not cops. But think about trying to assess. Think about this real quick. Think about trying to assess whether or not you should send an officer or a social worker. Imagine if you have a dispatcher who's trying to make that assessment. Do I send police or do I send my social worker? I can send either or. Let me go ahead and follow, the bullet points. Boom, 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 boom. I'm assuming if you're going to make that call, if you're going to make that call and send one or the other, then the caller on the other end is going to have to answer some questions, and the call is going to not have to seem crazy. So the dispatcher is listening to the call. Okay, what's your emergency? Are there any weapons at the scene? What's going on? And imagine the person on the other line, says, "This is my emergency, domestic dispute. Are there any weapons?" No, but that's a lie. Let's say, for example, the person lies, and then the dispatcher says, "Okay, well, based on the things you've told me, I'm going to send a social worker to go to your house." Okay. So my whole idea there is, how can you know for sure that the situation needs a social worker and not an armed police officer? Because things go bad quick. And this is the last topic of the night, guys. And I want to show you this because this is just evidence from our good friends at Police Activity. This is just evidence that at no point in time, should you send a social worker. There is no time that you should be sending a social worker. Vicky says, what the heck would a social worker do? Nothing. Nothing. No one unless social workers can throw down when they pull up on the crime scene, but suspects in an arm bar or sit down in a chair with suspects and talk it out. Nah, police officers for life. Yes. And this incident right here. Now, before I hit play, obviously, warning, the following video contains graphic content that may be disturbing to some viewers. Discretion is advised. But imagine you being the dispatcher and saying, you know what? I think this, I gathered all the information and I think the social worker would be the best route here. Take a watch.
Supposedly he has a knife and he's locked himself out in the room, so I'm still trying to find out what's going on with him. Okay, like I said, I'm still trying to make contact with him. It's the language barrier, though.
Okay, back in, sir.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, 476.
Okay, hey, do you understand me? What are you saying?
No, he just said right away.
Hey, can you talk to me, man? You okay if I come in?
Love you.
Do you want to hurt yourself?
The man just said, I love you.
So good.
Hey, you understand me?
You okay, please?
What are you saying?
No, he just said I ran away. I teach him to speak, please.
Does he not speak English at all?
No.
Can you tell him who I am?
Open the door, please. Yeah. He told me. Open the door, please. Just open the door.
Open the door?
No. Lady.
You open the door.
Open the door now.
Open the door. Come on.
No.
All right. So imagine if you're a social worker, open the door. Okay. I guess since I'm a social worker, I'll listen to you and I'll open the door.
Open the door.
Open my door.
So the guy on the other side of the door is telling the police officers to open the door.
Open the door.
And wisely, the police officer is like, no, I'm not about to do that.
Open the door now.
You open the door. Let me see your hands now. You move right there.
Love you.
Open the door now.
Don't hit me. Open. It's harder.
Open the door. Let me see your hands.
Don't care, bro.
You have any weapons on you?
What the fuck, girl? You're 80. You're needed. Shit.
Yeah, social worker would do really good right about now.
Shit, man.
Open the door.
Shit, man.
Hey,
Open now.
let me see your hands.
Open
Hey.
now.
And just like that, homie gets dropped.
County
I mean, my goodness. Let me see if I can put this in slow-mo because I mean, this is why I stand with police officers. I back the blue because look at this right here.
Hey.
Dude walks out. With a machete, a full-on machete, and he's walking towards the police officer. Thank God it's not a social worker.
Hey.
I mean, just coming at him, ready to. Oh my gosh. Imagine being an officer and seeing a machete coming at you like that. And then all the people that want to say police officers shouldn't have guns. Police officers shouldn't have guns. Police officers are evil. They should shoot him in the leg. They should shoot him in the leg. Now imagine this guy getting shot in the leg and still falling forward and having the ability to use his hands to strike the police officer. Shoot him in the leg. Shoot him in the leg. That's vicious.
211 County, shots fired. Send EMS.
I mean, and you gotta think, like, what the heck was that guy thinking? What the heck was that guy doing? So that point right there sums up for itself. No, we should never send social workers. We should never adopt this idea. And if you ever hear people talking about this idea in your hometown, in your state, you need to tell them, no, we're not going to listen to you. We are not going to send unarmed social workers, not police officers, to some 911 calls. No, we are going to send social workers to no 911 calls. We will let the police officers handle it first. And after the police officers handle it, then the social workers can come in after they're away from the scene. Why would we want to bring unarmed people to a potential scene that could erupt in any second? So no, the sequence of events should be and should always be: police officers show up first. An armed person, an armed servant of the people, like a police officer, should show up first, should assess the situation, should make the detainments or arrests that need to happen, and then a social worker come in. That is what it should be. That is what it should be. La Sombra de la Luz, hello, hello. A social worker would have been cut 6 ways to Sunday. I mean, and I don't even want to envision what would happen if, I mean, it would be a closed casket, because the way that the man's holding the machete, it's like, bro, you're about to get your face slashed. You're about to get a freaking machete implanted across your eyes, across your nose, and it's terrible. So no, we should not send social workers to this thing. But yeah, guys, I mean, that's just some of the idiocy that's in our country. Is people think that these types of solutions will actually work. And ultimately, guys, they won't. They'll never work. And the people that run with them, they need to be told, no, you don't deserve any leadership. You don't deserve any power to make decisions, because your decisions are going to get people killed. But anyways, guys, those are the 3 topics I had for tonight. We could go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you so much for being here on this Tuesday evening. As always, guys, like, comment, share, subscribe. If you're new to the channel, if this was your first time watching Conservative Republic channel, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you already haven't. And like I've said before, if you want to support the channel, help me invest in some better equipment, and things like that, you could support me on Patreon, PayPal, Cash App. Hit that like button one last time, guys. Thank you so much for being here. A couple comments before I sign off. La Sombra de la Luz says, people who say police should be unarmed surely have never heard of the 21-foot rule. Yeah, I mean, and I agree. If they are, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong before I get off of here, I believe what that means is if they're within 21 feet, they can become a threat in the blink of an eye. That's what I think that means. Vicky Carden says, crazy and sad. Yeah, it's sad. It's sad that a guy lost his mind to that extent that he would approach an officer with a machete. But for my people that are still in here, I'm going to try to make a routine of using Tuesday nights for live streams. So just look out for it. I'll be doing what I normally do. I'll put in a community tab. I'll create a post so you guys can see. But Tuesday night live. So keep an eye out for me on Tuesday nights if you guys want to come in and see the show. But anyways, guys, I'm gonna end that right there. Thank you so much for being here. God bless you guys. I will be back shortly. You guys know I make new content about 3, 4, sometimes 5 times a week, or 5 videos a week. You know, like yesterday, I created 2 videos. So if you haven't seen them, go ahead and check those out. But you guys know the deal. I'm trying to be consistent here every week, keep up with the topics as much as I can, while I also balance my family life with my 4 children and my beautiful wife. So if you guys enjoyed this video, enjoyed this episode, make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you're notified anytime I make a video. I will see you good people on the next one. You guys have a great night. God bless. Peace.